If you are recently divorced and you think you're ready to start dating again, wait 1 minute, girlfriend. You may not be ready. Here's today the most important thing you need to do before you start dating again after a divorce. And that is rebuilding your relationship with yourself. Tune in to hear all the tips and tricks today. Are you ready to start dating? You've just been through this long, tedious, tumultuous divorce, most likely. And you think, maybe I'm ready to start dating, but I'm not so sure that I am. So what I'd like to suggest is that you tune in today and you really listen to figuring out the ways in which you can tell, am I really ready or am I not ready to start dating? And if you're not ready, that's okay. No judgment. What we want to do, though, is to figure out how. What do you need to do to really strengthen the relationship with yourself so that you can be ready to start dating post-divorce? And that's what today's episode on Divorced Women Dating is all about. It's about rebuilding your relationship with you before you start dating again. Again, rebuilding your relationship with you. The most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself. It's certainly the longest one, right? Who's been with you longer than you? Who's going to be with you longer than you in your life? So you might as well have a really good relationship with you. So a couple of thoughts before we dive in, and then I will give you 4 different parts, 3 different sections we'll talk about in terms of how to figure out, am I ready? Am I not ready? And then the last section we'll talk about how to get ready if you're not ready to date. And really, what you can do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis to really take care of yourself, get to know yourself and check in with you so you can be so ready. So when you go out there, you are using discernment. You are not running around like an anxious chicken without a head, Remember if you've listened to my podcast before, when I present different topics, I'm doing it in the structure that I've created, this GPS model. The G is for grounding. And I've done a handful of episodes already on how to ground yourself. Today we'll address some of that as well, but today's episode is more on the P in the GPS, the grounding. The P is preparing for love, and the S is stepping forward. So today's episode is more on that section of really preparing yourself for love. Because if love comes to you, how are you going to recognize it and not sabotage it? If you're not ready, it's not going to happen. It's just not. You will find all kinds of reasons why this won't work. Trust me, I know. I've been there and I've certainly done that. So healthy dating really starts with feeling secure in yourself and grounded in the relationship with yourself. And if you don't feel that, you can certainly listen to some of my previous episodes on how to really feel more grounded in yourself and the stage of life that you're in. If we don't do this work, dating can be more of an attempt to find out, am I okay? Like, so we might date this guy or that guy, and I'm talking in heterosexual terms, but if it applies to whoever you date, we might be looking for our self-esteem to come from the outside. And it can't come from the outside, because even if you feel better because somebody said, hey, you look great, or wow, you're so smart, I'm so impressed, that's external. And we only feel as good as our last hit, if you will. It's almost like a drug. So the best way to approach this is from the inside out, not the outside in. And we'll delve more deeply into that as we continue on. Today's episode will also help you recognize old patterns so you don't repeat them over time, and identify keys, really key components to creating that healthy relationship with you. So many of us don't really learn how to have a healthy relationship with ourselves, especially as women. When we're little girls, we're taught to be good little girls. We're taught to take care of other people. We might play with dolls, and we take care of our dolls and make sure that they've eaten and they've gone to bed and they're resting. And I'm not sure, like, where do we really learn about taking care of ourselves? It's almost frowned upon. Don't be so selfish, Stacey. That's crazy. Don't be so selfish to take care of just you and not everybody else. So we have to almost unlearn some of that which we did, and then relearn new ways to love ourselves, essentially, because that's really what this is about. It's about loving ourselves. If you abandon yourself while you're dating, I promise you, no relationship will ever be successful, and you will never feel secure. And when I say abandon yourself, I mean not put your needs as a part of the equation, not putting your needs first. I'm not saying be selfish. I'm not saying, you're on a date with somebody and you say, we must go to this restaurant. We must have this food, and I have to have everything I want. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying on a very deep, mature, emotionally mature level, to honor you and your needs. Not only is it okay, it is necessary. So the parts today that we're going to talk about, how divorce impacts your relationship with yourself, because forgive my French, but divorce can really fuck with your self-esteem. It really can. I know lots of women who, as soon as they get divorced, they want to go on a great diet. They lose a lot of weight. They start working out at the gym. And that's all good and well and good. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's oftentimes to make ourselves feel better. And because divorce can really take a toll on our self-esteem. Some women feel like their divorce was, it's a sign of failure. My marriage ended, and so therefore I failed at marriage. Honey, no way. That is not the case. No marriage is meant to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. And even if you marry somebody and you grow old with this person and you both die the same day, it still doesn't mean it wasn't forever, obviously. But I guess what I'm saying is that it's okay if your marriage had a beginning, a middle, and an end. That doesn't mean it was a failure. It just meant that particular marriage wasn't meant to go the distance. Some do. I actually heard earlier today, I was talking with a woman who told me that her parents were married 71 years and they died within 4 days of each other. And we hear these kinds of stories, and they are beautiful. Nowadays, it's not as common. And statistically, the divorce rate is still 1 out of 2 around that, marriages that end in divorce. So your divorce was not a failure. The failure, if there's any such thing as failure, because I'm not a fan of the word, and I'm digressing here, the failure is to not love and honor yourself. So today we're going to talk about how the divorce impacts your relationship with yourself. We're going to talk about what it actually means to reconnect with yourself. We're also going to address signs that you are not ready to date yet, but without shame. There's no judgment. There's no shame. There's no blame. It's just, I'm not there yet. And let's say you started, a marathon. You want to run a marathon, but it's like, I've done 2 miles, but I can't do 26.2 yet. I'm not there yet. No shame. It's just, you haven't trained for it yet. This is also like a training. You're training for this kind of next marathon of your life. And it doesn't have to be a sprint. It's more like a marathon. So you're going to pace yourself. Slow and steady wins the race, right? So again, we're going to talk about how the divorce impacts your relationship with yourself, what it actually means to reconnect with yourself, signs that you're not ready to date, and then last but not least, practical ways to rebuild your relationship with you. Because what will happen is if you don't work on your relationship with you, you're going to attract very different kinds of potential partners until you really love you. Because then it's about, wait a minute, my outside's going to match my inside. So let's talk about the first part, which is how divorce can impact a woman's self-esteem. It can often lead to a lot of self-doubt and blame. Maybe I wasn't a good enough wife. Maybe I was a horrible mother. My ex and I used to scream in front of the kids, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And okay, we could all look back and have that, Monday morning quarterbacking, like this play was off. They could have done that play differently. We can all do that. Hindsight's 2020, they say, right? But we can't do it with blame or shame, because that's when we will feel paralyzed. It will emotionally paralyze us, and so that we can't keep moving forward and grow and evolve. Learn from your past decisions. I wouldn't even call them mistakes. You probably made the decisions you made at the time because at the time they seemed like the right decisions. Oftentimes that's what we do. We make decisions based on the information we have, and we often make the best decision we think we can. We can look back and say, what the fuck was I thinking? But we did the best we could. So be careful with the doubt and the blame. Divorce can also have this impact on our doubting ourselves. I am certainly guilty of not trusting my own instincts, my own gut. So sometimes post-divorce, newly divorced, I would go to a friend, a therapist, my mother, anybody who would listen to, the person standing behind me in Wegmans. I'm joking. But the point being, I would ask lots of people, hey, what do you think? What do you think of this guy I just went out on a date with? He looks like this. He does this for a living. He said these things. He didn't do those things. I wasn't asking the most important person, which was me. How do I feel when I'm with this man versus what do you think? Do you approve? Do you approve? Do you approve? What's your opinion? How should I respond to his text? Doing a survey and getting everybody's opinions can be more confusing and more dysregulating, quite frankly, than if we're to just sit with ourselves, close your eyes, meditate, breathe, do some journaling. And I'll offer you a journal prompt at the end of today's episode as well. But these are ways into our soul. And the more you can see inside your soul, the better you know yourself. Oftentimes as women, I was saying before, we're such good caretakers of other people. But oftentimes we also learn how to read other women. So, I can tell my girlfriend's having a bad day. She didn't get a good night's sleep last night and she's a little off. We can read other women very well because we're so used to focusing on others. This journey of healing post-divorce, before you get out there into the dating world, is an opportunity for you to really read yourself. How am I feeling today? What am I thinking? What do I need? This doesn't feel right. Let me honor that. Let me just sit with that for a while versus reacting and frantically running around without real consciousness. So notice these things post-divorce. If there was real trauma in your divorce, and I don't know many divorces that don't have some trauma, some have more mild trauma, some have major trauma in the divorce process in and of itself. And let's add in the way a marriage dies, if you will. Lots of couples just become more and more distant. There is no sex or intimacy. There's very little communication. And if there is communication, I wouldn't even call it communication. I would call it verbal abuse. There's yelling back and forth. There's not listening to each other. There's disregard, disrespect. So all these things can really take a toll. So I would say that most all marriages ending are traumatic. And the divorce process, in addition to that, can be traumatic as well. So after that is over, your relationship with yourself can be really compromised. You might be more critical of yourself. You might almost incorporate your ex's voice into your own mind and hear yourself saying things like he used to say to you, wait a minute, that's not how I speak to myself. I wouldn't speak to like that to my friend or any of my friends or my children. Why am I speaking to myself like that? Oh, that's what I heard in my marriage a lot. So we need to correct that. And the only way to correct it is to be aware of it. So again, without the healing we continue to recreate familiar patterns and not healthier ones. So we just do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Well, that's silly. You've heard that expression. That's the definition of insanity. So that's, really taking some time to look at how your divorce impacted you emotionally and in terms of how you view yourself is critical. The second piece to this is what does it even mean to reconnect with you? What does that even mean? You might say, I have no idea what you're talking about, Stacey. That sounds like another language to me. Well, this is not about improving yourself. It's not about reading a self-help book. It's not even about fixing yourself because there's nothing broken. Your marriage may have been broken, but that doesn't mean that you are broken or you even were broken. You're not a broken person. It's really about reconnecting with yourself. It's really about realigning or reattuning to who you are as a human being. What do you value? What do you not value? What do you like? What do you not like? And you may not even know some of the answers to these questions. That's okay. What's not okay is to let that linger. Really, give yourself a chance to get to know yourself. Take yourself on a walk. Take yourself on a date. Go to a movie. Go to, have a cup of coffee by yourself. Bring a journal. Bring a book. Listen to this podcast, Divorced Women Dating. But really what we want to do is to get to know ourselves and really begin to build. It's like building a muscle at the gym. You want to build the muscle of self-trust. This is so, so important. It's listening to your gut. It's honoring your boundaries, saying yes when you really mean yes and no when you really mean no. I heard something recently, I think it was Iyanla Van Zandt, who said, your yes needs to be, I could be getting this wrong. Your yes needs to be sacred and your no needs to be sacred and your yes needs to be holy. Something like this. Don't quote me. But my point is your yes and your no need to be in complete and utter alignment with your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, and your values. In other words, I'll often say to clients, make sure your outside matches your inside. Because if it doesn't, you're going to be in a state of conflict and stress. No doubt. No doubt. It's like if you're saying, yeah, sure, I'm totally okay with us having sex on the first date. Hey, listen, if you are, okay. But if you're not, and you're saying yes to something that really is going to betray who you are, that's not okay. That is a big, huge red flag that you are not ready to be dating yet. So the reconnecting with yourself, it's like maybe back in the day, like a radio station, and you might turn it the dial to a certain channel, certain station, and there's some static. So you have to really fine tune it. That's what I'm asking you to do with yourself. Fine tune your values, fine tune your relationship with yourself so you have as much clarity as possible. So we're talking about self-trust. We're talking about self-compassion. Self-compassion is really important too. You want to replace being critical, judgmental of yourself with curiosity. Well, that's interesting. I wonder why I feel that. I wonder why I did that or said that or thought that. Be curious about it. There's no judgment. You just really have not a real clear understanding as to maybe why you did or said something. And you want to learn about it. So self-compassion is critically important. Allow yourself to grieve. When we're talking about self-compassion, grieving without rushing your healing. Well, it's been, 3 weeks and I've got to hurry up. I've got to get out there. It's been 3 months and all my friends say, the best thing is, find another man. You kicked him to the curb, find another man. I would say pause. I would say breathe. Be with yourself. As uncomfortable as it may be, it is so, so, so important that you really give yourself the time to grieve and heal. Divorce is really like a death. And I felt in some ways when I got divorced, and I've heard lots of clients and friends who have gone through divorce say death might almost be easier because it didn't feel like a rejection. He just died. Wasn't his fault. He had cancer, he died. Okay, there's grief and there's pain in both, and they are different, divorce and death. But sometimes because you have to continue to deal with your ex, especially if you have children or you share a dog or you share property or whatever it is, sometimes that's challenging in and of itself. So have some real compassion for yourself. And like I said before, speak to yourself like you would speak to a girlfriend or your daughter. So the next section here is on being present with yourself, being really present with yourself. So what does that mean? It means not avoiding, not distracting, not sitting with, Ben and Jerry's ice cream, although that's fabulous, I think, and, in front of Netflix, just stuffing the emotions. But it's really having the courage to take the time and sit with yourself. I know that for me, it's very easy to numb out with a snack or a TV, or social media is like the thing. You can just scroll on TikTok or Facebook, Instagram all day long to avoid really sitting with yourself. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and place for all of that. There is. But if it's replacing you feeling your feelings, dealing with your grief, your pain, getting clarity about who you are, what you want, and how cool a woman you are, like you won't even know if you don't give yourself the chance to do the work. So being really present with yourself could be yoga, could be meditation too. And working on tolerating that which you're uncomfortable with. Like I said, if we maybe feel a little lonely, or we feel sad, or I can't believe my ex is out with her tonight and I'm sitting alone on a Saturday night and it's July 4th and I have no plans. Like that just eats me up inside, or whatever the feeling is. Feel the anger, feel the resentment, feel the frustration. And actually what it really is sadness. And even give yourself permission to cry. That's okay too. And instead of maybe proving, well, I'm okay, I got this, like I've got to be strong for my family, for the kids. I've got to just jump back in and, not really giving yourself any downtime. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You really don't. This is about just having compassion and taking things slow and letting yourself be present, which is the best gift. That's what they call it, a present, right? That you can give yourself. So part 3, we've talked about how divorce impacts your relationship with yourself. We've talked about what it means to reconnect with yourself. Now let's talk about this third part, which are these signs that you are absolutely not ready to date. And basically, and we're not going to shame, blame, or judge. It's just, I'm not ready to run that marathon yet. I could run 2 miles, not 26.2 yet. So noticing if you get a lot of anxiety. Maybe you're texting somebody back and forth and you sent him maybe a vulnerable text. You shared a feeling with him and he didn't respond. He hasn't responded. It's been an hour. It's been a day. It's been a week. Okay. If you're having a panic attack thinking maybe I need to be hospitalized, you're probably not ready to date. And I'm, joking tongue in cheek because I've been there. Ladies, I know that this is scary and overwhelming and dysregulating and disorienting. You might not live in the same house that you lived in anymore, so you have to get used to new neighbors and a new routine and new everything. So there's no judgment in any of this. It's just be honest with yourself. So if you are going on a date and you feel such tremendous anxiety that you feel like you're going on a job interview, or you feel like you're auditioning for a part in a play, that might be a sign that you're not ready. Not to say that you can't have some anxiety. Of course you can. That's normal. It's normal to even have feelings or thoughts like, how come you didn't text me back? That's normal too. It's to what degree do you get freaked out or anxious or overwhelmed or even emotionally paralyzed, like I said earlier. If you find yourself doing anything to avoid being alone, I must go on a date. Do you know, I will share that one weekend, I was divorced maybe 4 or 5 months. I think it was like a Memorial Day weekend. I had 4 dates that weekend. 4. And I remember telling a girlfriend, and she's like, oh, a married friend. And she was so intrigued and interested because I find that married people sometimes like to live vicariously through divorced people. Not always, but sometimes. Oh, really? That's so exciting. What was he like? Where did he take you? Where are you going here? But 4 dates in a weekend, if I look back at that, I can say to myself, that was too much, Stacey. How could you really be present with any of them? I was just with one on the date to the next one, on the date to the next one. One was like a dinner date, one was a lunch date, one was a coffee date. Too much. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what I've learned. And I think I was doing that because of the anxiety I had about being alone. And it's okay to be alone. It's really a gift. So remember, readiness is not about how long you've been divorced. It's more about how clear and strong you feel internally and emotionally, how stable you feel. And so, okay, how do you do all this? I've talked a lot about, how you can feel what you feel and why you feel what you feel post-divorce, but how do you rebuild this relationship with you? So here are some practical things you can do on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever works for you. You do what I call these kind of nervous system check-ins. So you ask yourself, do I feel safe today? Do I feel safe in this moment? Not even today. Just come back to the micro moment. Yeah, right now I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling safe. Great. Or if the answer is no, you ask yourself, what then do I need in order to feel safe? Oh, I need to see my therapist. I need to do some journaling. I need to go to the gym. I need to meditate or take a yoga class or hit a pickleball, whatever. You ask yourself if you feel safe. Dating clarity really requires feeling regulated. So if you're not feeling regulated, you need to ask yourself, what do I need to do in order to feel regulated? I also think making a list, like, what do I really want to prioritize today? What do I want to prioritize this week in terms of self-care, self-compassion, self-love? If I knew one of my dearest friends was struggling with something, what might I offer to do with her or for her to help her feel better? Do the same with yourself. Oh, I need to take a bath. I need a massage, whatever. I think when you have some clarity around what your values are, it helps. So what matters to you now? It may not be the same things that mattered to you when you were married. You're not the same person now that you were when you were married. So asking yourself what matters to you now, maybe even jotting some of those things down in your journal, and what are you no longer willing to tolerate that you did tolerate in your marriage? Chances are you left that marriage, even if he or she left you and initiated the divorce, you left that marriage walking away thinking, I will no longer tolerate such and such. I won't tolerate somebody speaking to me like that or treating me that way or cheating on me or whatever it was. So once you have that clarity around what your values are, those values become almost like a compass. And I use this GPS model. So, like your GPS, I don't know if you've ever driven really far and your GPS will say to you, or your car will say to you, are you ready for a coffee break? Do you need to stop and stretch your legs? I think knowing what our values are like these different stopping points along the dating journey. So it really can give you some direction about how to really prepare for love. Tolerating your own emotional presence is critically important as well. So again, if you're feeling lonely, you're not judging yourself, you have compassion, you're being kind to yourself and taking care of yourself. If you're not familiar with loving kindness meditation, that might be something to look up on YouTube. It's a wonderful one. We pray for you and for others in the world. So we've talked a lot about, what divorce can do to you and how you can rebuild your relationship with yourself. I would add that taking chances, taking risks, doing things outside your comfort zone will only help you to grow, despite what the result is. And that's really what this is about. This being life is about growing and evolving, as I see it. And if you're listening to this podcast, I imagine you see it in a similar light. So today's journal prompt is as follows. When I imagine being in a relationship again, what am I hoping it will give me that I am not currently giving myself? Sometimes we think we'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get in a relationship. I'll be happy when I lose 5 pounds. I'll be happy when, I win the lottery. All these things are well and good and they may be true. But how can I be happy right here and right now? And once you can begin to answer that, the world is your oyster. So again, the journal prompt for today is when I imagine being in a relationship again, what am I hoping it will give me that I am not currently giving myself? And I remind you, dating is not the starting line. It is actually the continuation of the longest relationship in your life, like I said when we started, which is the relationship with yourself. Rebuild your self-trust, rebuild your self-compassion, and watch your dating journey and your relationship life flourish. Thank you for tuning in today. If you are interested in a divorce support group that is virtual, it's starting in February. It's going to be once a week. You can email me, Stacey with an E, STACEY at stacyrose.com, and I will give you the information. It is a once a week online divorce support group. Anybody is welcome. It's not therapy. It's more like support. It's more like divorce coaching. And if you're struggling, you don't have to struggle alone. Thanks again for joining. See you soon.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Divorced Women Dating. Dating after divorce is definitely an adventure. And honestly, it is way more fun when we do it together. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single moment of the helpful, hopeful, or just really relatable episodes. See you soon.